So Financial Careers actually released an article about junior banker's salary in London, so I'm going to provide some brief commentary on it. I won't comment on if the figures are correct or not, or what bank I work for. I'll just provide some brief commentary and highlight some important or quite interesting things I noticed from the article. So if we start, the first thing that actually stands out to me the most is if you work for a top investment bank, straight out of university as an analyst one, you're not going to earn below 65k base. That is honestly, because if you think about it, the average salary for someone working in the UK is probably around 28k, and just your base salary alone puts you in probably in the top 15% of earners in the UK straight out of university. So you're a 21-year-old and you're going to have £65,000 at the end of the year, and this doesn't include your bonus. So your bonus could be whatever percentage of your salary. So just imagine the minimum amount you're going to take home, obviously before tax, is £65,000 as an analyst one. And if you look at it, Citi and Morgan Stanley actually pay the most at £70,000, which is quite interesting. I think the main theme you're going to see from here is, and this I can say like openly, American banks pay a lot more than European banks. So Morgan Stanley, Citi, Goldman are going to pay more than BNP, Santander, UBS. It's just like American banks can pay more because they generate more revenue, so obviously they can pay their employees more. It's not that hard to work out. So analyst one, you're going to earn minimum £65,000 straight out of university, which is honestly is quite amazing. If we go on to analyst two, year on year, your base salary should increase. If you're an analyst, more or less when you get to like the higher levels, like associates, VP, MDs, EDs, that could stay the same year on year. But as an analyst one to go into analyst two, your base salary would increase. So if we look at it here, all the base salaries are more or less around 80k, 75k. I think Barclays and Deutsche Bank pay the least at 70k, which goes back to what I said. Both of them are European banks and they tend to pay the lowest amount. And if we look at JP, Goldman, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, they're all paying 80k. And the common thing you're going to see across this whole table is the salaries wouldn't differ by that much across the different investment banks. And it's just because there's fierce competition for talent. So banks have to match what other banks are willing to pay, because if not, all the talent goes to Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley. So banks more or less have to make sure they're always paying at the industry level, which is a good thing. And analyst two, you're gonna get a 15k bump from 65 to 80k, which is nice. And then you go to analyst three. What stands out the most to me is Credit Suisse is paying 105k for an analyst three, 6 figures analyst three, which I don't know. I wish I could find out when these figures were collected. Was this after the problems they had, or has this always been a thing? Because paying an analyst level 3 105k from 75k is a 30k jump, so that's quite a big jump. And then you look at Morgan Stanley again, they pay the most apart from Credit Suisse at 95k, and like I said before, all of the banks are more or less around the same range, so they're around 85k, 90k. Barclays paid the least here at 80k, which, quite interesting. Now, this is where stuff actually gets a bit techie. So from analyst 3, once you get to analyst 3 now, you can move to different banks at any position. So if you stay within the same bank at analyst 3, you go from like Morgan Stanley, for example, you go from 95k to 115k as an associate 1, and that's a 20k increase. But I'm almost sure if you were to move from Morgan Stanley to JP Morgan, you could get 120k, which is more than what JP Morgan would pay you to be an associate at that time. So an associate at JP Morgan would earn 110k, but even to make the move from Morgan Stanley to JP Morgan, they will actually have to pay you more than they're paying the current associates, so to incentivize you to move, especially if you're good. So that's quite interesting, which is why a lot of people always move jobs, because when you move a job, you get a bigger increase than staying in the same role. When we look at associate here, again, Morgan Stanley paid the most at 115k, and the least amount is Barclays and Deutsche Bank, again, European banks, paying 105k. Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan all pay 110k, and honestly, 110k after working in banking for 3 years as a base salary, it's not bad. Can you really complain when most people are not earning 6 figures and will never earn 6 figures? Probably not. And then if you go on to associate 2, again, Morgan Stanley, this is the biggest increase so far. So from 115k and associate 1, you're going to go to 140k, which is a 25k increase, and that is honestly crazy. And if you look at all other banks, again, Barclays paid the least at 120k and Deutsche Bank 120k, JP Morgan, Credit Suisse, Deutsche Bank all around 125k. So it seems that Morgan Stanley are willing to pay above the average, and then most other banks just stay within the average, which is a good or bad thing. And if I actually think about it logically, I think it's this way because Morgan Stanley actually recruit less people. Like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Citi, they have a bigger presence in London, and Morgan Stanley doesn't. So it kind of makes sense, and to incentivize you, they're going to pay you more. And if you look at Associate 3 for Morgan Stanley, your base salary actually doesn't increase, which is quite interesting. So your base salary stays at 140k between year 2 and year 3. And sometimes this will happen. So sometimes banks may not be able to increase your salary year on year for different reasons. It could be financial reasons where the bank hasn't made a lot of money this year. I'm sure you've all seen the articles where a lot of junior bankers got their bonuses slashed or their base salary didn't go up as much as previous years. And it's expected, but for Morgan Stanley, they left your base salary 140k. And this could mean they maybe increased your bonus. Your bonus percentage could have gone from maybe 50% of your base salary to 60%. So I'm sure the whole package is too competitive, but in this instance, the base salary stay the same. And if you look at Citi have gone from 125k to 140k. So at Associate 3, Citi and Morgan Stanley pay the most, and then more or less all other banks are around 130k, 135k. And now the last position, which is a VP, Morgan Stanley, once again, the biggest base salary, 170k. So this is more or less after how many years in banking? More or less after like 5-6 years in banking, you're going to be earning 170k base salary. And if you look at the least here, it's Credit Suisse and actually Citibank, which is quite interesting. You're going to earn 150k. So once again, Credit Suisse, although we're paying 105k as an Analyst 3, between Analyst 3 and VP 1, your salary has only increased by 45k, whereas if you look at, for example, Barclays, where they were paying you 80k as Analyst 3, your salary actually increased by 75k at VP 1. So you go from 80k to 155k. So people just keep that in mind all the time when they're applying for jobs, that just because they're going to pay you a lot more as maybe an Analyst 1, you need to ask the question, by how much percentage is my salary going to increase each year? And honestly, after tax, all this shit is the same. But yeah, so Morgan Stanley paid the most, 170k at VP 1. You look at Bank of America, they pay 165k, that's the second highest, and also UBS as well pay 165k. And as you can see, the biggest range with all the salaries is between Credit Suisse and Citi. So there's a 20k difference between Credit Suisse, Citi, and Morgan Stanley, which, 20k after tax, are you gonna really feel the difference? Probably. Maybe, I don't know. For me, this actually shows how much you can earn if you work in an investment bank. So an important thing to actually note here is this is just your base salary, not including your bonus. So if you actually do it, I'll do this slide. So if we include a bonus of 25%, which is the average bonus for a first year analyst, let's take the first bank as an example. So if you do 25% of 65, that's 16.25. And if I add that together, your total comp, if you're a first year analyst of Bank of America, based on this website, it'd be £81,000 more or less, which is honestly crazy. So the max you can actually get as a first year analyst, so no first year analyst can actually get 6 figures based on this website. So if it's 25% bonus for Morgan Stanley, that would just be £87,000 and 250 whatever. So £87,000 straight out of university. Honestly, can you really complain? I can't really. Why would someone complain if you're earning this? I don't know why. But the thing is, once you start earning a lot of money, your lifestyle goes up, and then you give into lifestyle inflation. So you start buying more stuff than you need because you can afford it. So it's all relative. But yeah, it's £7,000 straight university total comp for Morgan Stanley is crazy. And it's also interesting that this website stopped at VP 1. And the reason for this is from Analyst 1 to like VP 1. So that's like Analyst 1 to Analyst 3, Associate 1 to Associate 3, and VP 1. There's not much room for negotiating your salary because most of the time, junior banks are put in specific brackets. So although for Analyst 1, there could be a max they're willing to give, and the minimum, there's always a max. There's always a max, and it's not based on you negotiating. It's based on how the bank perceives your performance and everything. So when you get to VP1, from that stage and after, now you have to negotiate your salary sometimes. VP2, 3, EDs, MDs, it's going to be very hard to actually get this salary because there'll be so much difference. Because if you look at this now, the ranges are typically between like more or less 20k, 10k, 5k. But once you get to like VP2, EDs, MDs, the range starts to increase a lot. You can go from someone earning, for example, as an ED, 400k and someone earning 250k. That's a 150k difference. So the ranges get so large that it makes sense whether these are not actually on the list itself. I think another interesting video I'd like to do is what actually, if there's a similar article based on the US banks that someone has, or someone can link in the description and the comments, that'll be quite helpful because it'd be good to compare what the US counterparts make to the UK counterparts. And I think a lot of times if you keep the exchange rate the same, the US counterparts make more. And maybe there's an argument for that because a lot of the revenue is generated in the US, so maybe they pay them a bit more. But that'll actually be something interesting interesting I'd like to follow up with. Maybe someone can link that in the comments if they have the article somewhere. That'll be nice. But as you can see, investment banking is a very lucrative job path. Like, you're guaranteed 6 figures if you stay within investment banking. And obviously 6 figures goes from 100k to 900k. But if you stay within the bank and you keep on doing what you're doing, and even if you don't become a high performer, if you just stay as normal, you're doing everything adequately, obviously your bonus will not be as large as those that are performing high. So the bonus range is actually very crazy. So your bonus can range analysts by quite a bit. It's just based on how you're rated as an analyst within the bank. So, but even if you're low rated, like you're rated at the lower end, you're still gonna make a lot of money. It's all perspective anyway. You're gonna make a lot of money compared to most people in the UK. So once you actually get to like more or less analyst 2, you're more or less guaranteed 6 figures. Analyst 2, this is like your second year out of university. And honestly, it's amazing. If you want to make money, you get to pick what profession you want. If money is your sole aim, pick a profession that pays you the most. We have a lot of salary information out there. So there's no excuse for you to be like, oh, I didn't gonna get paid much being, I don't know, a social worker or being a marketing agent or whatever. Bankers, lawyers, and tech people. Those are the professions that earn the most in the UK, if I'm correct. And I think also management consultants earn quite similar to bankers and lawyers. Look at, like, bankers are more or less killing it. I think for lawyers, in a law firm, I know for the first 2 years you have to qualify and you're typically on 60k. But once you qualify, that goes up to 145k. So this is quite interesting, and I'm actually happy these kind of figures are actually out there because it makes it more transparent what people are actually earning in the bank. How can I negotiate my salary? And this is very important because once you get to VP1 and above, it's very important to learn how to negotiate your salary. And it's something I don't know how to do yet because I'm still an analyst too. So it's something I'm trying to improve and I'm trying to learn quite fast, because if you don't ask for a bigger salary, you're not going to get, the bank is not going to pay you more because maybe in your head you deserve more. You have to open your mouth and talk. That's what my Nigerian dad would say. You have to open your mouth and talk and try and get a bigger salary. You have to go to the negotiating table and say, hey, this is what I want, what can happen? And a lot of times people say they're not paid properly or all of that. It's because you've not asked. If I was an employer and I'm paying you £20 an hour, why would I offer to pay you £40 an hour even if I can, if you don't want it? Because at the end of the day, it's a business, it's a profit. Let's move all emotions to the side. This is a profit-making business. I want to keep my costs low. You want to maximize your wage. So there's obviously like a give and pull. I can't just offer you the max I'm willing to pay. Like, no one does business that way. If you own a business, you don't pay suppliers more than they ask for you, because yeah, there's no point doing that. So I think this article is very good. I'm gonna stop talking now, and yeah, see you in the next video.